Peter, what games do we have to look forward to in round number 9?
Well, our leaders are playing. Hikaru is playing black against Fabiano, which is always an interesting clash and an all-American clash. But in this tournament, they have very contrasting tournaments up to now. Hikaru is doing extremely well. He's leading the tournament half a point or a full point, depending on how you count, ahead of Magnus Carlsen. Whereas Fabiano is now tied for last with Veselin Topalov. They both have had a really poor couple of days.
Some cruel cameraman's work there. He keeps his camera on Veselin's very sad face.
Yeah, I wonder why they are not concentrating on Hikaru, for instance, to project an image of supreme confidence and success. But yeah, I think for both Fabiano and Veselin, they can't really wait for the rapid part to be over, and maybe in Blitz their futures will improve. But
that's unlikely, especially in both their cases. They're among the elite, known as the weakest Blitz players. So if things don't go well,
these things obviously are very relative. I played both of them in both disciplines, and
not saying they're putzers, but if you look at the Blitz ratings, like there is a 100-point gap between them and the rest of the field, maybe except for Laurent Fressinet. I don't know his Blitz
No,
rating.
I understand your point, but still, it does feel like the rapid part has not really gone well for both of them at all, and they are, by this point, sort of hoping to get through the last round reasonably unscathed. And
enough sad stuff. We have two big matchups in this last round. Karana against Nakamura. Even though Karana's not doing well, he is, first of all, always a force to be reckoned with, and secondly, against Nakamura, there is a US angle to this as well, a bit of a rivalry. So certainly going to be interesting. And he went for 53, not 63, which we've also explained plenty. This is sort of the little brother of 63. Supposed to be less dangerous because black can go for this b5,
yeah,
c5.
Precisely for the reason that we see on the board. And I'm somewhat curious, has Hikaru started playing the Open?
I don't
Because
think
that would be the only reason to go 53 and not 6. But a curious choice already by Fabiano there. I wonder what he will come up with. And in Carlsen Kramnik we have a repeat of the, what's it called?
Semi-Tarash is what I call it.
Yeah, they played a game in this line in the opening blitz of the Norway chess tournament, which Magnus won.
But not out of the opening, I think.
No. He got a pleasant enough position, but nothing drastic. And then Vladimir went for a tactical operation, which he felt was very strong and which backfired. So,
yeah, we have to stop torturing Veselin Topalov. Let's see what other camera angles there are with the cool daily motion feature. We can choose whatever we want to see. I don't know who these people are, but it looks like it might be Levin Aronian with white because it's the same opening we've seen.
It's the same
rounds
93
ago.
92. No, it's actually
Wesley
Wesley.
So. Oh.
It's actually Wesley doing this for this time against Fress. Yeah, it seems like players are watching quite carefully what each other is doing in this tournament, because it's hard to imagine that two players independently prepared this particular variation.
I'm not so sure. As I mentioned recently, I also prepared this line because everybody sort of, you want to get this move order to work, but d4 is a major problem. And Bakro had some nice games with this, so I'm sure many people took notice.
Yeah, that also is a fair point, of course.
And what else we got? We got Levon Aronian against Veselin, standard hedgehog position. I'm a little curious what Levon's going to choose if they head down this road, if rook e1 or d4 or b3.
Yeah, there's plenty of options here, all of them very well explored. Obviously, we'll see what transpires there. In MVL against Giri, there's another one of those not quite Catalan positions. We'll wait.
They're a couple moves further ahead now. This is the Levon Aronian position.
Yeah, I think this queen c8 move that Veselin played there is gaining in popularity these days.
I'm jumping around. We'll go back to it later. Let's conclude our tour. Karana Nakamura. Have we seen this line before? I think we've seen something similar, but not quite this position. Because
I think it could
bishop b2,
it could transpose,
d4,
yeah.
e3.
Yeah, this was
C6.
Giri against Nakamura early in the tournament, right?
Yep.
And it could still transpose to it if Fabiano plays bishop b2 here, followed by rook e1, but he has other options here as well, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go bishop b2, rook e1 immediately. It might be a bit more flexible. We'll see. Knight c6,
Yeah, because
d3, bishop a3, knight e5, many moves.
Yeah, exactly, because the bishop later went to a3 from b2, so if you can do it in one tempo, you're saving some time for yourself. I think there's another game which could potentially head in the same direction a bit further down the list. I think in MVL's game, Black has the option to... hang on. No, I was hallucinating, sorry. That's the
Another d3, b5 situation here. Looks like guys had a little conference and said, you know what, we've bored people enough with all these Berlins, anti-Berlins. Let's play a slightly different line. And then let's, to make it fair, because this is so horrible for black, let's all play 5d3 with white. Because castles is too
In
strong.
fact, what I think has happened is that they mixed up the names, because I think we only have one d3, b5, and we have one reti, and we just originally had the wrong names attached to them.
That's another less likely explanation. But seriously, yeah, this is the position in MVL Giri where the names probably got tangled up.
And then my question actually becomes very relevant, and the answer is yes, you are avoiding the open. This is why you play 5d3, because Anish has been playing a lot. He has been playing the open variation of the Spanish a great deal these days.
Yeah, and someone else who tried this against him is Magnus Carlsen recently in Norway chess, but he didn't really get anywhere in this b5, bishop c5. Arguably it was slightly worse than the opening.
I really want to get to the current position in this game, because MVL, yeah, I like MVL.
Okay, I'm confused he didn't go bishop e6, that's my move, but I always say that. And he didn't have any problems against Magnus going for this. Bishop d5,
Bishop d7 and rook g1 is what MVL played here against Stanish, and this is why I was so happy and why I was kind of hurrying you along. Instead of switching to some kind of positional play with either bishop e3 immediately, maybe castles and bishop e3, the kind of play Anish has seen plenty of time in his practice, maybe not in this precise position, but in similar positions. MVL just says, okay, now I'll give mate. Be prepared, g4, g5, and mate. And it's not actually that easy to stop. It's a very curious idea, based on the fact that currently Black cannot play knight e7 because his knight is pinned.
You can still do it.
You can still do it, but I don't think this single tempo is. White will castle queenside here.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start with, let's say, rook a, e8, g4, knight e7, g5 is kind of winning for white. Because you don't have squares for this queen and you lose a lot of material here. And also, judging by the speed of MVL's play, this might be very likely. This is...
of course it's Hallmark, come on.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is, as strong as I'm trying to pretend it is, but it's incredibly interesting. And so far I've been unable to find anything resembling a refutation. H5 maybe, but H5 is...
What about this? But
it's
first
such
of all, you allow bishop g5, and secondly, you could do the same thing.
Yeah, even h3, g4 is not out of the question. But then maybe g5 will come without this very important tempo hitting h6. So maybe you could argue for this. But if you have to play h5, you're not particularly happy about life. Because bishop g5, queen g6, let's say queen g2 creates a threat of knight h4. White will castle queenside once again later in the game. It suddenly becomes very, very sensible without, White didn't really make that many concessions to get this.
No, his biggest concession is he played rook g1.
This is an immediate early contender for game of the round. My mind keeps on drifting back to, I really want to go knight e7 here, I don't want to get mated. You can start with queen g6, but then I think g4. Knight h4, queen f6, you have to go back. But g4 here.
Takes.
Rook g4?
Oh, rook g4 is prone.
Knight bishop 6 probably is also better for white, but this I think is more efficient. e5.
Yeah, bishop a8 works too.
Yeah. No, it's an incredibly interesting idea, and also a very easy idea to miss, because you automatically make some kind of a human move here instead of rook g1. As I said, castles or bishop b3 or I don't know, b4, a4 something. But rook g1 is It's a very striking idea.
Yeah. Just switch on the computer because I was too curious what it was going to say. First it thinks it's ridiculous, but then it changes his mind very quickly and says you either h5 or not very pretty maneuvers like this. So it's a serious move for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is a very, very serious option here. Once again, it's questionable whether black absolutely has to go for this precise line after knight c3, d6, knight d5. There could be...
No, here bishop e6, as I keep preaching, is a very good move. People don't follow my advice.
Yeah, kids today.
No, but Anish in the opening, I think he's fully grown.
Yeah, that is also true.
No, that he's fully grown as a chess player in general. I should stop making things that could lead the many Anish Giri fans to think I'm not a fan. See, even my way out of it is clumsy.
Yeah.
Still, Anish has his work cut out for him here, because after rook g1, it's not a pleasant surprise to face over the board.
He's been thinking for a while here, and unsurprisingly so, because it's a very, very drastic change to what I think he assumed will be a quiet game where he will not really have that many issues to.
You know who else is going to be upset? Magnus Carlsen is thinking, come on, Peter Heine Nielsen, I get this very position against Giri in a tournament game in Norway chess. Can't you come up with rook g1, g4? How hard can it be?
They actually had this in Norway chess?
No, Magnus, I'm not sure if he took on f6 that early. I think he played, whatever, normal moves, h3 castles and that kind of stuff, and didn't get anything. Speaking of Magnus, let's see how he's been holding up. This is not Magnus. Where's Magnus?
That also is not Magnus, and
it's going to be hard to find. Is this Magnus?
No.
No. Where are you hiding? There he is. How's he doing against the Vladster?
Vlad is seemingly still playing very fast, and he does know his stuff in this semi-Tarrasch position. So
all of this is theory. A4 is also supposed to be the most critical move, but after bishop b7 they normally go rook e1 first in order to avoid the very trick that happened in the game, because after bishop d3 e5 is supposed to be fine for black. There's been experiments with d5 knight c5 and now giving the exchange, but it's nothing for white. And else you're not really fast enough, let's say bishop c2, to establish control, and black gets very quick counterplay. So this, I thought e5 has been dismissed. No, bishop d3 has been dismissed for a while as being nothing, because if you have to go here, then black takes, as in the game.
Yeah, it feels like it's quite comfortable for black, yeah.
So I'm not sure if Magnus mixed up his move orders or if he feels there is a little something in these positions. I might have played this very position, f3, and I got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, this is currently the position. AB has also been included, but
yeah,
black wants to play g6. There's also the idea of playing bishop d3 at a good moment if you want to, swapping down even further. Yeah, it doesn't feel like black should be in any kind of trouble here.
No. Of course, yeah. It's hard to have every opening refuted all the time, but Kramnik is also going to be thinking, in Norway chess, I went for this ed5 and lost out of the opening. Why didn't I just play knight d5? This is what he wants to do.
Yeah.
A lot of regrets here.
A lot of potential for regrets. And Fabi is doing something very drastic against Nakamura.
He's also pushing his g-pawn. Maybe it's g-pawn pushing round. Do you think we can find Fabi? I can't remember a single thing. There he is.
But frankly, I like this somewhat less than I like MVL's idea.
Feels
take on g5
over
here.
the top. Oh no, he wants to take so many moves. Isn't black just better?
I like black a lot here. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't get this plan.
Knight g6 followed by a5, or even the immediate a5 is playable. Maybe he wants to take with the knight, but then after f6 the knight has to go back.
Still knight g6.
Yeah, knight g6.
Maybe wants knight h3 or something weird to
followed up with f4. Yeah, that makes a bit more sense. Black could play h5 in the current position if he felt worried about any of these things, but it does give white a foothold.
I want to go g5 here. Might get checkmated.
Queen h5. Yeah, looks a bit dodgy. F4. Knight takes.
Yeah, might get checkmated.
No, this I think is a bit risky. Although knight h7, you're probably not getting checkmated immediately, even here. H takes g has been played, so we'll see what Fabs means to do in this position.
Magnus has played bishop a4. Be happy to exchange these dudes for each other, but might not be able to do it.
Not forced. I mean, black is not forced to take, but also even if you do take, I don't think you're struggling all that much here as black.
But you don't need to struggle all that much to get in trouble against Magnus.
That is true. I quite like this move.
Can you go bishop rook e7, or is there?
I guess he wants knight f5 or knight c6. Knight f5, for instance. I don't know.
Yeah, it's trouble, right? You lose coordination at the very least.
Yeah, I think it might be a lot of problems because knight a4 I take and I play queen d4 and I think I win. No, there's bishop b5 there. Maybe no. Let's take on rook d8 check. Sorry,
there must be some mate here.
Yeah, rook d8 check. I don't know why I was trying to make it more complicated than it actually is.
Yeah, so you can't really do that. So I guess he has to take and defend this position, which might be nothing, but
it's a little bit better for white, but shouldn't be anything horrible for black. Rook d6, rook e d8, g6, h5. Yeah, not blundering a rook is a good idea there in the lines I was trying to show, but...
Gotcha. So, how is Mr. Geary reacting to this rook g1 surprise? Is he reacting at all?
I think he is still thinking. I'm gonna leave you alone for about a minute.
Right. I like sitting in the middle. And here this chair looks so weird with all this high-tech green screen stuff we got going on. But Anish can't be all that pleased with himself. I can't even imagine what it must feel like to be in his shoes. And you see g4, g5 coming up, checkmating you. This is the move you want to play, so you can play knight e7 next. But we've shown this before, g4. If you go g5 to stop g5, white just goes h4 and crashes through, I would guess. Takes g5, looks pretty terrible. Therefore, you don't have time for that. And as I mentioned, I earlier interviewed the computer what he wants to do. And he wanted to do this, which looks fairly disgusting now, I think takes. But you can't play like that as a human being faced with a surprise. So I don't know what he's going to come up with. And it seems like he doesn't know either, because he's been thinking for like the better part of 10 minutes now, I would guess. Which is not ideal in a rapid game. And I'm even, if this idea is as strong as it looks, I'm slightly surprised that MVL would show it in a rapid game, which goes to show players are probably taking this very seriously, especially
it does
MVL. They're not hiding preparation, right?
Yeah, it does feel like a very, very interesting idea, which, considering that players like Anish, they stick to their opening repertoire and they play each other a lot. So you probably don't have to wait too long before you play Anish with white in a classical game. No. And judging by a very, very brief foray into the world of computer evaluations, this is a very sound idea. It might not win, but it's definitely not a bluff of any kind. No. Yeah, it's
over the board. This might be crushing, even in classical. If you have to work your way through h5 or queen g6, queen h7, like, not fun at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice to show this in a rapid event.
We'll see, but yeah, maybe the trend is shifting and dudes are really respecting, or not. Well, there are more rapid events and at a bigger stage like this one. And maybe they've just decided, whatever you got, let's show it.
Yeah.
Might also depend. If you're Carlsen and have a World Championship match coming up, it might be different than if you're MVL and don't have a World Championship match coming up. Let's check in with the US clash. If I find it, it's like a game of memory where you have to remember 5 numbers, which is an impossible task for me. We need names for these things. Just can't do it. Anyway, Caruana against Nakamura. G4, G5. Less impressive. And Caruana took knight e g5, which is also interesting.
Yeah, I'm still not sure what was wrong with, let's say, f6, but maybe Hikaru feels he can just do without it, play bishop f5, followed up by knight g6, queen d7, and only consider playing f6 at that stage.
I don't get this g4, g5. I don't get. I understand it's
becoming
a weapon in many positions.
No,
but
I think
here,
it's
looks like a
in
ruling
this
position.
structure. It's more the fact that if you look at the position where Fabiano played g4, your knight on e4 is going to get
went
driven
wrong
back.
already.
Yeah, not that wrong necessarily, but I think it's a very standard ploy in this precise structure to secure your.
I understand, but normally then you go h3. or
Yeah,
something.
probably go use. But here, I mean, knight g6. It already feels like you've misplayed it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, feels desperate.
Yeah, I think generally you don't put your knight on e4 this early because then you have to somehow solve this issue of securing it there.
Yeah, it looks like things went a little wrong for Fabiano in the opening. I don't know if there's any theory here. If you're supposed to go bishop a3 or knight e5. Or
I think
d1.
d3 bishop d3 queen e2 is way too slow. Yeah, I think
Yeah, queen e2 looks very unimpressive somehow.
Yeah.
Even d3 I'm not sure about. Maybe this move, like do something aggressive.
Yeah, rook e1 or knight e5 were my favorites here. Anyway, it's been and gone, and the position on the board.
Also,
is
there's
what it
knight
is.
e4. We could argue about every single move, but knight e4, of course, if you get kicked back with f5 quickly, it might just cost you 2 valuable tempi.
Yeah.
That's the thing with the Benoni. Like, I go to all kinds of lengths to avoid it when I'm white, that guys can play the scary Benoni against me. But if you play with colors reversed, it looks like such a terrible opening for white normally.
Yeah. Which only goes to show that you really need. It's one of those openings you really need to understand quite deeply to play with either color because it's not your standard fare.
Nope. Bishop f5. Yeah, I like Hikaru's chances. Hikaru also has the momentum in the tournament. He's the leader at the moment. I would not be surprised if this ends very, very badly for Fabiano.
Yeah, I was considering playing knight h4, but
Yeah,
there's also
I
bishop
can't
takes
take.
d3. Yeah, I mean, you can even go greedy and yeah, this is good. But bishop d3 also picks up an important pawn with the kind of the same position but without the pawn on d3.
Yeah,
So it's just not very good.
C5
c5 is what Fabi came
It's
up
all
with.
over the place. His knight is here, and now he goes c5.
I think he wants to. I mean, he definitely wants to go b4, and if bishop takes c5, he wants to go knight h4 then, and at least drive some of the pieces back. But it looks less than
It's like too little, too late.
less than stellar, frankly, for him. I mean, black definitely can ignore it, but also bishop c5, knight h4, and some quiet move like bishop h7. I don't know. Doesn't feel like white will deliver mate there necessarily.
Neither do I. What's going on in the Twitter sphere? Chess24.com is tweeting. See the only one watching us?
No idea.
That'd be so sad. Fast chess headline. Cheers, guys. But please move the microphone away. That's a while ago, and it's a weird headline to have, if you ask me. But they don't make the headlines. Yeah, else not much going on. Tweet us, hashtag ParisGCT or hashtag C24Live. We haven't been very social so far, because we aren't. Still, do it. Knight g6.
Knight g6, I think you played before here. Having said A, that's the only justification for playing c5 on the previous move. But you're not really getting very far this way. Black could even maybe go a, b, and b5, which is a standard reply in these types of positions, stopping the advance on the queen side. Because you want to attack the knight on c6 straight away, but your knight on g5 is hanging. Yeah, maybe takes b5 is a really good reply here. Then knight b4.
Yeah, it gets extremely messy. Like, I don't know, I can't calculate. You tell me what's going on here.
Bishop takes g5 wins, I think. It's not particularly messy because rook takes e5 will be a bit of an important tempo.
It's messy for my standards.
Rook e5. Now this will. But you're already down material here
Why?
because I have two pieces for the rook.
That's a fair argument. If you consider that down material. Like,
Yeah.
cheapskate.
Let's go back to our exciting clash between MVL and Giri because
Oh, that one. Did he make a move?
he
He did make moves.
He did definitely make a move, and
Let's see. He decided to retreat Queen d8, g4. No surprise there. That was sort of telegraphed by Rook g1. King h8. g5, g6.
Yeah, this is not a response you particularly would like to be
Looks
forced.
fairly horrible, but you also gotta do something at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And now he finally plays rook b8 to be able to play knight e7 later.
If I jump,
I think he's hoping to play knight e7 anyway, but maybe bishop takes f7. No, this I take a queen and queen f8 might be quite decent for black.
even this assessment I might question.
Yeah, I thought I could play bishop b6 here, but it allows queen f6 check, which is a bit of a problem.
Bishop e8, nah, can't work.
Bishop g8 check. Very nice.
Overloading.
Yeah, a very nice motif there, but
might be other solutions here, and this is probably not terrible, but bishop g8 is cute.
Yeah. MVL decided to throw in before bishop b6 as well, which is I think before playing knight g5. Have I done this right?
I'm not going to go to any b4 material.
No, I think this is
before it's 8 a.m.
This is way too slow. I don't think you want to allow knight e7. Frankly, I think you would want to stop it somehow.
Go here.
Yeah, if you force black to play queen f6, this is a great achievement, I think, for white, because then the knight on g5 will be completely unchallenged for a while. Knight e7, go back to b3. Whoa, nice, but probably not.
Not very good, but
yeah.
just felt
king
like
h7, bishop g5, knight g5. Yeah,
bishop f2 or yeah.
Knight g5 is very strong.
F2 is also not terrible. Yeah, it doesn't work.
No, but play bishop b3 simply, and the fact is, you need to somehow shift this knight from g5. But with
now knight f7, bishop g5. There's f2 is still hanging, but there's gonna be tricks.
Yeah, it feels like it's definitely paid off. The MVL's novelty as
supposed to pay off in a
great benefits, and MVL has played knight g5 after bishop b6. Yeah, it's a rather horrible position to have, I think, for Anish. Maybe queen e7 followed by f6 is what he should try and get.
Yeah. Queen b3, f6, or even knight d8 too?
Yeah, knight d8, I think. Queen a7 has been played, and yeah, it's a type of position where you still want to continue playing fast, so to speak, not in terms of, not thinking, but in terms of developing your initiative. Because if you allow black all these moves, let's say black gets f6, knight d8, bishop b6 in, and somehow doesn't lose the g6 pawn, he will have decent counterplay. White did commit quite a lot of resources to this, and the king on e1 will start feeling uncomfortable. So you need to somehow follow up here and or follow through and continue creating threats.
Queen e7 is a good move, yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Yeah, what you said, not so easy. Knight f7, the problem is f2 is always hanging, so you
f2
can't
is
really
hanging, and
think
also,
about that stuff.
as usual, the pawn on h6 is doing a very good job of covering the black king. He went h4. Is the idea to play f6, h5? But f2 is hanging once again.
There's this dude. Still, let's look at it.
No, there's also g takes h5, which could be a more a saner option, but bishop g1. But you're not actually creating any threats there. Rook f4, queen f6.
Yeah.
I think you need to play g7, but then it's completely unclear. King h8, you pick this up. Maybe I actually prefer black, probably. And the software decides this is a good time to crash because you wanted to queen your pawn.
It doesn't crash, it just takes like 5 seconds to queen the pawn. We're used to it, but that gives us time to reflect about the endless possibilities in this position. Like gf8 queen, gf8 knight, gf8 bishop, or gf8 rook. Let's go with knight, because it's check.
Yeah, probably rook takes, queen g1, and...
It's a mess, I'm not so sure. I get my king out the way and bishop e3 or bishop g5, I'll be very happy.
Yeah, but I think black shouldn't be horribly unhappy about this either, because it takes you a while to develop your second wave of attack here.
So what else is there?
No, I think you need to play f6, because if you allow h5 like for nothing...
I meant after f6.
You can play knight f3. g6 is hanging, but it's very slow. King H7
H5 or something.
Maybe Queen H7.
It's a weird move, though.
Yeah, Queen H7 is a very weird move, though. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we switch to normal play at some point. Not that I.
Bishop
would know
D2,
what
Queen
that is,
C2,
but
and
yeah,
Castle
something
Queenside or
this,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah, but Knight E7, Bishop B3, and then I don't know. Bishop B8 F7, but it's very slow. You would like to go King H7, but the issue, I think, the biggest issue is that to create counterplay, you would want to play F5, but F5 will signal a triumphant return of the knight to G5. So.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there is always this Damocles sword of H5, G5.
Yeah. And in this particular position,
Something
H5,
takes
G5, Knight G5 might be very strong.
Yeah.
Or not, I don't know.
Well, that's still the F2 issue, right?
Yeah, there's it's always the same. Maybe it's a bit too hasty here.
Yeah, no need for this yet. Just play a move.
Yeah, so some kind of a development move. Maybe Queen E2 with the idea of following up with Bishop E3, which is slightly more human than Bishop D2.
Where was Anish? Let me try to find him one last time. This is one of his talented young rivals. This is him, and not much else.
Yeah, MVL is leaning back and enjoying himself. He's probably also ahead on the clock a great deal, so no real reason for him to feel
Let's find out.
particularly pressured.
Monsieur Vachier has 15 minutes left. No, he spent some time. But Anish, of course, spent even more time. 18 minutes against 8 here, 10 minutes up.
Yeah, F6, Knight F3, and Queen E8 was Anish's choice.
Queen E8, yeah.
Yeah, I like this better than
Slightly
almost.
less clumsy than either King or Queen H7.
Yeah, I think Queen E2, Bishop B3 is probably the sensible way to proceed from here.
Do we worry about F5? No, it's too early. F5 again.
No, I don't think it's
This dude is not
Prepared
really
enough.
going anywhere, is it?
yeah, it's the usual knight e7 issue against the pawn on e4. It doesn't really have much future.
Well, normally it has this square.
Yeah, you could try opening up something on the queen side to make the eventual long castle less attractive for white, but
Maybe even A3.
yeah,
There
well,
he goes. Queen E2 by Monsieur Vachier-Lagrave. And the ball is back in Anish's court. What has he done? Knight D8.
knight
He
g8,
goes
yeah.
For the E6 square.
Also reasonably sensible, considering we were planning to go bishop b3 and then probably taking with the queen. Then the knight will have a very nice square on f4 to look forward to.
Yeah,
But-
but of course you could chop it off.
Yeah. But I mean, bishop d2 is not really that stupid. I think maybe he wants to include c5 somewhere to at least open the c file. Bishop e6 might be a move he will consider as well. Next move against almost anything, bishop e6 makes sense to my eyes, because it asks us white a question: what do you want to do about the light squared bishops?
Don't care.
Yeah, maybe you should. Yeah, c6.
Now I have to start caring. Yeah, long castles. I'm not sure how much happier the king will be here, actually.
Yeah, and
Takes, let's say king b2, a5, all of a sudden the counter
g6 is saying, I think you always need to recapture with the knight actually on e6. It's very important to have the knight on e6.
Getting checkmated here? Still work.
Rook takes g6.
Yeah, probably not. Yet.
Bishop e3, bishop e6 is on the board instead of all this, so we were correct about bishop e3. Anish replies by offering this trade as well. You probably just castle.
Still.
I'm not that worried. Rook g3. I want to go after the g6 pawn straight away. Maybe actually, if you play a5, I might consider playing b takes a5 there, but I don't know. It's an option. Still a very complicated position. Anish sort of weathered the first storm with some losses, but not.
Well, when king d2, I like that better. Like, a2 pawn still defending the king feels a little safer after this stuff somehow.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. I think the king probably is safer on d2 than on c1, but not entirely convinced by that. c6 he probably takes, but I mean bishop b3 is not ridiculous either. Asking black to, yeah, he played bishop b3 actually.
He's hoping that this rook gets a job.
No, bishop takes b3, a b3 cannot really be considered for black because the king will be very safe on c2 and the pawn on a6 will hang, and it's just wrong. Maybe, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot because it continues giving black unpleasant choices. c5, you could maybe even return to d5. I think you need to play c5 here to...
You go d5?
d5, king c2, I don't really understand what's the follow-up. He played c5 anyway. I think this is the correct approach. You need to try and soften the white king side to make it less attractive as a kind of a safe haven for the white king. But white could also just ignore it. Rook g3 is a move. And he has played rook g3 since.
Yeah.
Rook g3 followed by rook g1, and then maybe even h5, g5, knight takes g5 will return to the agenda.
So what do you think? He's gonna checkmate him over here, slowly but surely.
I think white is better. I'm not sure how much, but I think white is better. Yeah.
Can you be a little better? Aren't you checkmating or not? How do you defend this? Like rook g8.
Rook g1, rook g8. It's not that easy to attack it even someone.
Eventually h5 and something takes g5.
Yeah, like play a5 here, for instance. a5, rook g1, rook g8.
This is not crushing through
g5, fg. Oh, no, king h7 probably. Yeah. It looks very, very scary, but takes rook b7. If working with machines for the past 10 years taught us anything, is that positions are more resilient than they look.
No, of course. Ain't over yet.
But
yeah, no, this could be like a slow win, or it could not be. I'm too dumb for it. Rook g6, but it feels like there's still resources.
Yeah, and Anish decided to open things up. c4, c takes before. He's taken on e3. I guess queen takes, because you want to keep the h6 pawn covered. This hasn't been played yet, but I expect the queen to take on e3. It doesn't really make much sense to take with anything else.
Has been played now.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what Anish wants here, because to me these two trades favor white quite a great deal.
Maybe he just wants to take on b3, go knight e6, now knight f4, and hope for the best.
Yeah, you do give up the a6 pawn, but maybe you just say, okay, I don't care very much about that. I need to secure my king side, and then
so
maybe
taking this could be a bit double-edged.
There's also rook a8 to playing against the king in some positions, maybe not in this precise one, but yeah, could be the best choice here. Just acknowledge that covering all of his weaknesses here is difficult, and switch to some kind of active counterplay to at least make MVL.
So let's have this knight here at least.
Yeah, sure.
We'll see. Let's have a look at some of the other games, because the two leaders are also in action. We have Fabiano Caruana, who played a less impressive g4, g5 against Hikaru Nakamura. And is he suffering now?
No, this is not all that clear, to be honest, because I'm even kind of considering playing h5 immediately, but he returned to e1. But h5 is a very, very serious threat here, because it forces knight h8 more or less, and that's not a pleasant move to contemplate. So it could be that black has to play bishop g4 here, and the bishop only just returned from there.
I don't have time for greed.
Bishop d2. I can keep things under control for now. Rook a8, h5, rook a3, but it feels slow. Queen f7 is a move there, for instance. And once again, Hikaru is doing very well in the tournament, so he doesn't necessarily absolutely have to win this game, but you feel he is dissatisfied with the idea of playing bishop g4 here.
He does want to.
Yeah, because black is not really very far from assuming control here. If you give black a tempo after bishop g4 to play rook a4, rook e8, he'll be a lot better. Bishop h5
here,
maybe?
then, yeah, and you allow this.
Bishop h3, yeah, and followed by bishop g4 probably, and then once again you renew the ideas on the king side. Maybe even with more force here. Yeah, that doesn't look particularly attractive.
No. Maybe it's a draw.
We'll see. And how is Magnus doing?
My best guess is he's still slightly better. Let me try to find him. Oop, that's Levon. How hard can it be? That's Magnus's trademark 3-star jeans.
He kind of pinned himself, but I guess after queen a7 he's planning to play rook d6. Queen a7 has been played. I assume the idea is to play, but then takes queen c5, no? What is the idea? First we need to establish if the rook is actually hanging. But I think it is.
The knight.
Knight f5 is what Magnus played. I forgot about that option altogether, somehow.
I can give a couple of checks, but they don't seem to really lead anywhere.
No, I think
you're to a bank rank mate.
Yeah, I think you're driving the white king towards good squares, so it's not particularly attractive. And if you take, you might actually lose the b5 pawn and be forced to defend the somewhat unpleasant endgame. Takes, bishop b7, rook b6. Yeah, it feels like the b5 pawn is doomed here.
Yeah, you're gonna suffer. The bishop is kind of passive. No, he's chipping away once again. Mr. Maxter. What else can you do? Keeping the queens on the board looks less attractive, not?
Yeah, also queen g5 might be made.
That's another issue, maybe. Not sure.
Yeah, but rook d6 is also a very strong move, obviously, there. And yeah, you feel like you need to minimize the damage here and take the queens off in some version. Hikaru played bishop g4. Let's not return there, but
let's do it.
It does
be a move repetition.
Yeah, we could have this game done with in a number of.
We'll see if Fabiano decides to repeat or if Fabiano tries something. Who knows?
This is a decision Vladimir Kramnik is facing right now. It feels like he's been somewhat outplayed here and should be worse.
Yep.
And there's been events in MVL Giri. The king is now on e3. But it feels like MVL probably will be the first one. No, hang on. Queen c5 check. How does white get anywhere there? The threat, I guess, is rook g7. But black can play queen c5 check even after that. I don't think you need to give this check immediately. You could, but what useful moves do you have? Maybe rook c8, but it feels, I mean, allowing queen e7 is very dangerous. How did this come about? Let's have a look.
I was thinking about rook b7, but it doesn't quite work, I think. I'd like for it to work. Though.
Takes, queen c5, king d2, queen f2. No, actually I can play king e2.
Yeah.
Knight f4, king f1, and knight e1.
Yeah. Out of checks.
And queen g7. Queen g7 will decide there.
So we've seen something like this.
Takes, and after queen f7, MVL went for kind of a direct solution here. Takes, rook g6, knight e6, queen a7. Takes, and king e3, and we get to the current position. Very messy. After queen c5, we take with the queen. dc5, knight e5. White is at least not worse and probably better. So I would like to try and take with the knight instead. Because I don't really see how white gives mate. h5, knight h4, rook g7, I guess it's a very slow plan, but it might be very efficient.
Looks pretty decent.
Let's say black plays rook g8 here. And knight is, yeah, it's very dangerous, yeah? So very, very difficult position to understand properly. Knight e6, knight f5, king h7 maybe.
Even this is a move.
Even this is definitely a move, yeah. Followed by rook g6, h6. Yeah, it's still a horrible mess, and I suspect Danish is running rather low on time. We don't really... Yeah, 3 minutes against 14. Yeah, in this position, this is a very telling difference on the clock.
Well, he had to spend like 12 minutes in the opening on a single move.
Sure. No, I'm not judging him very harshly. He goes rook a8.
Same
I think
idea,
he
not
wants
losing a rook.
Yeah, he wants to give this perpetual. He thinks it's a perpetual, but I don't think it is actually. Maybe he just wants to chase the queen around, but queen d7 kind of prevents that. How do you deal with queen d7? King e2, king f1, and there is queen g7 check, but I don't think it wins. Maybe it does. Hang on.
Too late.
Mistakes were made. There's mate there. Rook g8, rook g7, rook e8 mate.
Yep. Hours later, the circle decided, let's offer 4 options. Rook, queen, knight or bishop. It's kind of important to choose either a rook or a queen here, because else there will be blood.
Yeah, rook g8, rook g7, and rook e8 does actually decide just in time, and including queen c1 check and knight e1 at any point will not really save black either.
So anything else to do? This doesn't help, as you just mentioned.
And also rook a7 will become impossible, so you do not actually get this position. Now you're just getting mated. Feels like queen d7 should be winning now. I don't really see how black extricates himself from this. Because regardless of which checks you give, king e2, king f1, king and knight e1 is a very, very efficient way of... Hang on, wait, no. Queen c5 and then queen c2 is how you should go about things, I think.
When what?
Queen d7, queen c5, knight... Yeah, here you play queen c2 check, not what we were doing.
King e1, queen c1.
Yeah, king e1, queen c1 is a bit of a problem. And if you go... Yeah, that would be risky for white. And if you go king f1, black can take on d3, force you to go king g2, and then, yeah. I'm not sure about knight f4 check, but maybe rook g8.
Yeah, this looks better. It's probably winning for black somehow.
Yeah. Very calm under tremendous pressure there, Anish. Rook a8 is... It's not an easy decision to make on very, very limited time. Can we do something about this as white? Looks like Wesley has beaten Laurent Fressinet in a game we more or less completely ignored, but...
Sorry, this game just was too dramatic.
There were very exciting games everywhere else, so we...
Kudos to Wesley. He managed to, I think, probably trick him in the opening, even though I've seen this position before. These things aren't that easy. This queen c8, rook d8 was a fashionable idea at some point.
Yeah.
But you gotta know what you're doing exactly. And I don't know the details here. Anyway, good last round game for Wesley.
Yeah, seems like Levon is not doing that hot against Vesselin and Topalov, because here black can take on a2, white will have to return to b2, and black can pick up the e5 pawn.
Yeah, and in case you're confused about the early opening commentary we gave, the board numbers I think were mixed up, and it was indeed Levon who played this line again against Vesselin. So...
Yeah, rook a2, rook b2 has already happened, and Vesselin is considering his options, but I think you take, and then you play either rook takes e5, or you could consider knight d7 as well. Take it, bishop f4, rook has to go back somewhere, but yeah, black is not really running any risks here. White probably should save this, but...
Not so sure, this knight looks good.
Well, king f3, rook b6 or somewhere, and white is also very active. Also, you could throw in g6 in some positions. Maybe you should actually play against that as black. But let's return to MVL. I think this is by far the most exciting game we have running.
Here we are. Even though it looks like the Karana game continues.
Yeah, let's
for a minute.
Yeah, let's revisit that. So instead of repeating, Hikaru after rook e4 went knight d8, protecting the f7 pawn. Fabi played bishop d2, which is a very sensible move. And also you have to point out that knight d8 is really not very harmonious at all. You no longer have any pressure against the b4 pawn, and rook e8, a8 is no longer possible. So Fabs played h5, bishop h5, bishop h3 here.
Gave a pawn.
Going for some direct initiative. f5, knight h4, I think, is the idea.
5 is on the board.
I think he has to be basing this on the idea of playing knight h4, but then probably black takes and goes g6.
He played king g2, he just wants to bring the rook to h1. Looks scary, doesn't it?
Looks very scary for black.
Very, very scary.
But maybe bishop takes f3 here?
What do you want?
Knight f7? And king g8. Sidestepping your tremendous attack along the h file, at least for the time being. But knight h4 even here, knight g5, knight h4, any of these moves. Yeah, looks very interesting for one.
Yep.
Yeah, once again, applauding the fighting spirit Hikaru demonstrates in this tournament in every single game, but it might backfire today. What's the time situation there? Can you have a look? Six against 4, so Fabs is also comfortable on the clock, which is very important against Hikaru, I think, because he is very, very strong in situations where there's an unclear position, and he is the one with the clock pressure.
Yeah, but here it's much harder for black to make moves, like blitzing out rook h1.
Yeah,
Isn't that hard, but...
I actually don't see very many options apart from bishop takes f3, because allowing rook h1 seems lethal to me. You will just get checkmated along the h file if you do that. Maybe machine will show some solutions here, but I don't see them.
No, so let's have a look at Magnus chipping away against Vladimir Kramnik. Not saying he's winning necessarily, but he certainly preserved some pressure.
Now Magnus is, Magnus has a tremendous amount of pressure here, despite equal material and very limited material on the board. The pawn on g6 is weak, and generally, it will require some careful defending here to hold this with black. I also wonder if the b5 pawn somehow gets lost, do you make a draw? Let's say a pair of rook gets traded and you lose the b5 pawn. How easily drawn is this with this pawn?
It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
Pawns on h5, g6.
Yeah, with the pawns on h6 and g7, I think with the light square bishops you hold.
Yes.
But with the pawns on g6 and h5, it probably is kind of problematic.
Magnus looks excited. I think he's smelling, maybe not blood, but he's smelling g6 pawns, which to some people is just as exciting as blood.
Yeah, and to our regret, probably the MVL Anish game finished in some kind of repetition.
It was still a great game.
And
there was nothing else to do after queen c2 check.
Yeah, after queen c2 check, the king went back to e3, and moves were repeated. So I think it was a it was a tremendous interesting game and a very, very interesting novelty, which is very relevant since a lot of people started playing the open, which brought back 5d3, which in turn brings back b5, bishop c5. So it's quite logical that this sub-variation is being discussed more and more.
Why not this move, by the way?
Rook g8 check, I think, is at least a draw. Probably is a draw, no more than a draw, but you're not playing for a win anyway, so why play this and give white additional options.
Alright, nice game between those two, and our leaders, or Hikaru is the sole leader, he might be in trouble against.
Yeah, he played knight f4 check after some thought, which has the added benefit of allowing the rook on a6 to go to h6, which I kind of ignored originally. But still, it looks very, very dangerous.
Its pieces are so compact. Even rook f4 looks nice aesthetically.
Let's take with the bishop though, and after e4, I want to take on e8. What do you recapture with? If you take with the queen, I can take on f5 even. And, it's a very pleasant position to be playing. If you take with the bishop, I think rook h1, rook h6, and I wanted to go knight e5, but it actually doesn't create any threats. This is probably what he is planning to do. Bishop f4 ef has been played, and Fabi is now thinking about his options. Can we have this on the board for a second? Nope. Why did you switch to this game?
Because I guessed when you said, can we have this on the board, you meant, can we have this on the board?
Fair enough.
What do you want on the board?
The Corona and Nakamura position, I didn't think we were quite done with it.
What do you want?
To think for about 3 seconds, but knight e5 is a move. Bishop f5 is also potentially an idea here. Yeah, that was what I wanted to try.
Not sure it works, but
Queen f5, rook h1, rook h6, rook h5 was what I was trying to make work. But after rook h5, rook e8, you have rook takes g5, which was annoying me greatly. Even this position here, king f1, I'm not sure who's better here.
But we want to be sure that white's better, because it feels like he has earned that right in the position.
Yeah, he's played rook takes f4, to which Hikaru replied by playing g6, which is
defending.
Yeah, he's solidified his. I mean, the bishop on h5 is not a particularly nice piece, but he.
You can take a couple of pawns, but it feels like
Bishop
will
f5.
they counterplay?
No, not immediately bishop f5, but maybe rook h1 followed by bishop f5 is decent. He did take on d4 though. Ah, that's because he has rook d8 check there. I mean, rook d8 and knight f7 as a tactic there in many positions. It's a very sensible choice. Black needs to choose the square for this queen very carefully, because you need to sidestep those forks.
Yeah, I think Hikaru's going down. Fabi, he's feeling extra motivated, even after his half out of 6 or half out of 12 or whatever.
I think Vladimir actually blundered a piece, which is going to decide the game in
piece is a piece.
Yeah, and knight takes d7. This is a bit of a sudden turn around here. Depends on rook e7, rook b7, b4 though. Might still be a draw. This is really, really unpleasant for. I mean, you find this very nice knight d5 tactic, and then you end up with 3 against 2 on one side anyway.
Wouldn't be happy about that. Let's check in with Magnus's facial expressions. He's an inscrutable fella. Not really.
He can play knight c5 and pick up on b5 and actually play the endgame we discussed.
Probably he has to.
Yeah, I think it gives him better winning chances than the other choice. But there as well, black can play rook e5 and pin him along the 5th, which is a problem, I think.
Find a square.
Bishop c8.
C8. I have time, right? Maybe not.
Rook f7 or rook e2, yeah, I don't know.
Let's try this now.
Rook f7, king e5, rook f5, king d6, I guess. Rook but then I can play rook f6 and rook takes b6 and I will not lose this, I think.
No, I'll win.
Well, win is maybe a bit strong because the b pawn gets lost, but I will exchange enough on the king side to make an easy draw here.
So I guess you should take and then rook e5. Can you unpin here?
King f4, rook f5 check, king e3 or e4, I don't know, somewhere. King h6, I think, to sidestep all the checks.
King e4 allows a check.
Yeah, king f.
I don't know. This feels wrong.
Still not an immediate draw, but feels like black should now be holding somehow. Rook d5, yeah.
Yeah, this feels like a draw. Oh, Magnus gonna be very mad at himself if he doesn't grind this out. Maybe not, maybe he just thinks, well played game, Duke defended, what are you gonna do?
He went knight b8, which is a very confusing choice because it does secure the b5 pawn, but how do you get the knight out then?
He's just trying to create fresh problems.
Rook c7, rook takes b5, and the rook will return to b6 later, but still, how do you make any progress?
Yeah, it's rook d6 and knight d7.
Ah, yeah, that actually makes tremendous sense. King f6, rook b6 check, I expect, and then, yeah, depending on whether the king goes, but No, I still like rook b6 check because apart from rook d6, we don't really have any ideas on how to extricate the knight without trading it for the bishop. And if you trade it for the bishop, it's an immediate easy draw for black.
Rook b2. He's doing this do not hurry thing, which you read in these old Russian textbooks that people gave us in the West, like 50 years after you guys had them. But we have them now, so we know such tricks.
Yeah. Well, he decided to lose this tempo to make black make a move after king f5, rook b6, but rook e7 doesn't really spoil anything. I don't really understand what he's gaining by doing this.
He's just masking his true intentions. Gives black more chances to blunder. g5 and bang! Pawn's gone.
Ah. We were totally wrong about all this, because by driving the rook away from c7, he now managed to install the king on f4, which was impossible previously, because he would get chased away by rook c4 check.
So,
the knight actually is getting out now. Let's briefly revisit for Hikaru's game, because there's
a bunch of pieces disappeared there.
Yeah, white is no longer giving mate, but white has an extra protected pass pawn on c5, so he's still much better. Something like king somewhere and bishop g2 is asking to be played. I think the bishop on h3 is the last poor piece white has here.
Fabi's gonna win. Even though Hikaru is incredibly tenacious in holding such things together, I believe in Fabi. Even after all that he's done to us. Rook d7, Magnus goes for an exchange of rooks.
I am actually very confused by this. Because the bishop will go to b1 and I will keep my king on g7. And do you actually win this?
If you allow my king to g5?
Yeah, but how do you make progress after?
Yeah, let's somehow put it on the board.
Because I think the king gets to g5. I don't think that actually is under... is in any doubt. But then maybe you play f4, you bring the knight to g3 and you play f5, right?
Yep. Isn't this winning? Maybe there's some counterplay against the g2 pawn, but wouldn't be surprised. Bring the knight to d6 even if you have to go g3.
Very impressive decision, and also made very quickly, because for me, you know, I would try to keep the rooks on, because against a reasonably poor black king there would be some attacking ideas, but Magnus just immediately switched to this.
He knows his boring endgames. Well, if he's going to win, if he's going to draw, we shall harshly criticize him for not keeping the rooks. But I feel like he's going to win.
Yeah,
the king get his king here, and he's going
to
get the setup he wants.
Yeah, and then it does feel like he will be able to get to the g6 pawn, but we'll see.
King e6 has been played. Kramnik's probably trying to activate his own king. He understands that. Can't wait passively.
Well, with it, I think if you play king e5, you might lose by force. I think.
That's
f4 check.
Not ideal.
Knight f3, knight e5, and
resigns.
Everything collapses. Yeah.
All comes down. Hikaru still looks confident. Or does he?
I'm not sure he does now.
Well, this knight is exchanging itself for bishop.
But Fabiano decided not to waste the tempo on including the h3 bishop in the game, and he finds himself in a... He can't really protect the c6 pawn. King e7 here is very strong, so... He has, in the current position, no, hang on. How did we get here?
He didn't take on f8.
Yeah, rook e7 check, takes bishop e7, I think will happen. And now white will play rook c7, I think. But then there's bishop d8. Rook c8, bishop somewhere, knight g5. Rook e1 is Fabiano's choice. I'm very surprised by this. Why do you allow king f7?
Why not?
Takes rook d6. Who is better?
Nobody.
I think black. I thought rook c7 was winning. I'm very confused by this.
Maybe you missed something. Maybe it's rook d6, but that's weird. And if you play slowly here... No, still rook d6. Yeah, I don't get it.
No, I think this may have blown it altogether, because now you can't stop rook d6, and I don't think you're at all better anymore.
Could lose.
Yeah, you definitely can lose the position after
Play
bishop.
knight g5. This sequence will be blitzed out.
I think you kind of need to bail out with rook e5, bishop takes f5 and collect everything, because if you don't...
Rook e5 on the board. Hikaru's gonna play bishop. Bishop
sure, he played rook d7, rook b5, rook d3, and I honestly think it might not be at all stupid to just bail out immediately, because you might regret not doing it later. Rook b6. Yeah, I'm not convinced by this. Bishop f3 check. You're probably holding, but it's not very enjoyable. And it did look to me like rook c7 was just winning there. Magnus did break with f5, and now he will win the h5 pawn and probably convert quite comfortably from here, right?
Stop him. No, but it's winning. Just
King takes h5.
So, it's time to go home.
Yeah. These positions, people still play them because, what I mean, draw. It's not a draw.
Nah, it's system malfunction. He did win this one because he would have 2 extra pawns, which is enough, even against Kramnik. So the last game of the round is Caruana Nakamura. Nakamura now, well, he's not exactly under pressure, but Magnus won his game. So Nakamura, I'm sure, would be happy to win this from a very bad position to all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, to stay in the sole lead, going to the blitz.
Yeah, but probably...
He's not winning this,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah, bishop f1 is a very decent move. Now he's threatening bishop c4 check, which needs to be addressed somehow, and pushing the f-pawn is very difficult because there's always rook f6 check. Just play b5 here. Yeah, I think we overestimated the dangers. There was no real reason for white to give up the bishop and then suffer in the rook and bishop against rook positions. It still says draw in the Carlsen-Kramnik game, but we are fairly...
Didn't end in a draw. We promise.
Yeah, we're fairly convinced this is not a draw.
Carl's shaking his head. He probably realizes that, yeah, you can't really win this.
But
maybe it's time to start thinking about making a draw again. Like, if you allow b5, bishop c4, any of those things,
yeah,
you can always overstep the boundaries in such a position. There's Magnus having a look. I think that's Magnus, at least it's a white shirt.
He went rook d1, and after bishop c4 check, I wonder if he went king g7. King e7 was...
Ah, but the problem is
rook h1 check.
Rook
No, rook h1 check and f4. This actually does work for black.
Oh, even better. Anyway, he didn't do it. He went king g7.
No, king g3. Oh no, we do lose the g5 pawn with checks, which is less than ideal. It's still a little bit tricky. He did play b5, and now Hikaru has the option of winning the g5 pawn with checks, but...
So the option of threatening checkmate.
Yeah, why did he allow this?
I guess he wants to go king h3, but...
Isn't this over? King h3, bishop f3?
Oh, I missed bishop f3. It's checkmate.
Isn't this
Fabi
just
is tired. Yeah, Hikaru's body language says, I shall checkmate you, my dear compatriot. And Fabiano resigns. Yeah. Not a good tournament for Fabiano. I really thought he was going to win that one. He had such a nice position.
He lost every single
like
game?
half out of 8 or something.
Every single game today now?
Let me study that.
I think he actually lost every single game today. Yeah.
Not a good day.
Yeah, 0 out of 4 is not a pleasant conclusion to the tournament. And
especially since he concluded yesterday with half out of 3. So, yeah.
And Topalov actually lost to Lev, that position which we thought was slightly better for black. We completely forgot about that game altogether.
Looks like we forgot about J.
How did this happen?
G6.
Yeah, he allowed G6 and then something went badly wrong, I guess, yeah. Yeah, we left it somewhere here, and I thought maybe G6 should be prevented. Because allowing all this did not seem like a particularly good idea. Yeah.
So speaking of bad days, Vesselin's was probably a little better than Fabiano's, but not by much. He scored half out of 4.
Yeah, he drew Wesley in between his 4 losses today. Yeah, Wesley and Fabiano really had a tournament to forget up to now, and 2 Blitz games to follow. 2 Blitz, 2
Fressinet
days
also
of
scored
Blitz.
half out of 4.
Yeah.
So between Topalov, Caruana, and Fressinet,
Half a
he
point
scored
out
half out of
no,
12.
No, 1 out of 12.
1 out of 12.
1 out of 12.
Half plus half. It's not actually half.
Yeah.
Still not a lot.
Yeah, 1 out of 12 is not a stellar result. So what do the standings look like currently?
The standings look like they did before.
Yeah.
They
Hikaru
never
half a
change.
point. Hikaru half a point ahead of Magnus on 14 out of 18. Then Magnus Carlsen on 13 and 2 people on 11, right?
That is correct.
MVL and Wesley on 11. Vladimir Kramnik, who lost to Magnus in the last round, drops back a pace, clear 5th on 10 out of 11. Levon is back on 50%, and 3 people in deep minus, who all 3 of them having had a... No, Geary is also on 50%, and 3 people who scored very, very few points between them today.
Rough days at the office, but we're only halfway through because there's still 18 Blitz games to come. 9 tomorrow, 9 the day after tomorrow, where fortunes can turn around. In my opinion, it's more likely that the rich get richer. Nakamura and Carlsen and MVL are all supposed to be pretty decent Blitz players, as are Kramnik, Aronian. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be an exciting race, especially for first place. Looks like the world number 1 and world number 2 in Blitz and Rapid are in pole position to battle it out. I believe that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, bearing with us with all the tech issues, the sleep, lack of sleep issues. It's not even lack of sleep, I'm old. I get tired very quickly. I can only imagine how the players feel. Who's that dude? Is that Peter Lico like 100 years ago? Let me bring him up. He looks exactly like a young Peter Lico. It's probably not Peter Lico.
Probably not, yeah, unless there's some, as you mentioned earlier, some kind of a Benjamin Button situation going on.
No, I've seen Peter not that recently, but I would be surprised if he became that much younger. That's all we got. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Join chess24.com if you haven't yet, if you want to see much more of us and play in exciting Banter Blitz games against world-class Grandmaster Peter Svidler and many lesser-class Grandmasters.